everybody, and welcome to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, me, Ariel, and...
me, Raylene. Hello.
And we have a very exciting episode today because I did it!
The big thing.
Woo! I drove my Minitruck to an event, and I sold books, and I did it.
I cannot wait. And I haven't really heard much about this, so everyone knows. I've seen a couple of photos of some things that happened, things you sold, some cute little things that happened to you while you were out there, but I don't know the lowdown. And what I really want to know is what books you sold, but we can talk about that after. But I'll definitely ask about that.
I made a spreadsheet for you.
Oh, thank God. That makes me feel better.
Not only can I just share the spreadsheet with you later if you want to see it, but also, which I knew you would want to, but also I can read some of the fun stuff from it today.
I want stats.
Which I think is a good time. I'm also right now pulling up my reports page. Ooh. So basically I am able to look at my machine. Let me start there by saying I love the machine that I use.
That's good.
The Square terminal. This is in no way supported by Square. I think really they are the only one on the market. There's a couple other little competitors out there, but it's what everyone seems to use.
I've seen it in so many different small businesses. It definitely is the right thing to go with.
I knew when I was looking for a payment machine, that one just came to mind because I've used it, and from the customer side, I really like those machines.
Yeah.
They feel nice, and so that was the first one I looked up. But I did look up other ones, but this one just seemed the best, so I took a chance and I bought that machine. I love this machine, and I know why it's the one that everyone uses, because it is a powerhouse.
Ooh.
It is so awesome how I was able to add one type of tax to books and one type of tax to other types of items, because in Nova Scotia, for example, and I think it's the same across Canada, but in Nova Scotia you get taxed at 5% for a book. Mm-hmm. But then, everything else, clothing and apparel, are taxed at 15% in Nova Scotia. I know Alberta has a cheaper apparel one. Anyways, but books are taxed at way cheaper across the country. And so I was how is the machine going to know if somebody in the same order buys a book and a shirt, how will it be? And of course it was able to figure that out.
It knows everything.
And you're able to add in an item like a shirt, but then have variants. So it's small, medium, large, extra large. Because my sizing goes from extra small to 4XL. So I wanted to be able to, whenever someone buys it, chart which ones I'm selling so that I know which ones to order more. And it, of course, puts all of that information in. And it's just been so good. But my favorite part of it is the reports page. So you can look at everything you sold and literally be okay, what are the things that I sold? Which things sold more? Which things sold less? Which even to the point really where there's a timeline chart and it shows me. So for example, on Saturday, I made most sales in the hour of noon. That was the hour where I made the most. I didn't sell anything at 11 a.m. I didn't sell anything at 7 p.m., which is when I closed the shop down. Yeah. And I did my first sale at 10 a.m., which makes sense because that's when I set up and was ready to go. Mm-hmm. And so it's so cool. You literally see a little bar graph and everything. Yeah, I do really enjoy these statistics.
Well, of course. It's so cool. And something that's cool too that I didn't realize is that you were doing this event for 2 days. I thought it was just going to be one day.
Yeah.
So that's even more exciting. Did you have one day that was noticeably more busy than I guess Saturday.
So we did Friday and Saturday.
Right.
Friday was really good. It was from noon till 7. And it was great, and it was kind of a perfect first day because it started slow, which makes sense because we were wow, it was it was a little bit slower of a day than we thought until the afternoon. And we're wait, people are still working on Friday. Friday is not a day off for most people.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Canada Day because in Canada everyone gets Canada Day off. And so Canada Day is on Monday. So it was a Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it makes sense that it started a little slow, but that was really good because I was able to like, this was my first ever event. So I was able to like slowly figure things out and optimize things and get with the flow. Like my first sale, actually, I did have that disaster. The first thing that I sold was a book, and the girl had cash, and she's like, "Can I pay with cash?" I was like, "Totally." And she was like, "Okay, here you go." She handed me the cash and walked away. It ended up that book was $19.99, so it was $20. In Canada, by the way, we don't have pennies anymore, which I think was a great decision.
Yes.
And so we just round up or round down.
Yeah.
So to the nearest 5 cents. And so this was $20. She handed me a $20 bill and she left.
But tax.
And that was the thing, Raylene. I forgot about tax. I was like, awesome, have a good one. And then I was like, oh, God, I forgot about tax.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's okay.
It's just $1 though, right? I'm trying to remember back to my retail days. I like knew exactly how much each book would add up to with tax.
Yeah, well, plus 5% is 21. Yeah. So yeah, $21, exactly. So it must be the same 5% tax in BC if you remember that. That's funny. So I was like, okay, that's okay. Learn for the next one. But then my second sale, and I only remember these first 2 sales because they were so like iconic in my mind. I was like, oh my God, so much is happening. The second sale was a hat, a beige hat. And the hat, I have one right here. This hat that says, I'm thinking about books on the front, and it says Book Dreams on the back of it. So this hat, they wanted to buy it with credit. And I was like, no problem. I've got a credit machine. I've got the hat inputted into the machine. But it tried to charge it through both taxes. I had not set up the item correctly because I didn't know about this yet. Of course, And so I fixed it, and I was like, okay, now I know how to do that. And so it was a really big learning experience. But then the Saturday was really, really busy. Honestly, kind of nonstop busy. It was insane. So I sold over... I don't have the exact record yet. I haven't gone through my stats and settled up yet, but I still have just my jar of cash sitting over there, and I'm just like, I'll process that later. I sold over 70 books, which
that's so good.
I didn't think, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's awesome. I was a little worried. I was like, what if you sell like 5 books? Like, what if there's just nobody at this event that wants to buy books? Like, I know. That's entirely possible.
It's a random little town. They don't have a bookshop, so maybe people were like a little more ravenous for books. But also it's like Privateer Days is the name of the festival. It's like a piratey outdoor festival with like, there was a witch dance that happened. All these old ladies did a witch dance and there was pirates walking around and there's like a historical reenactment type thing. And like, so it wasn't a book festival.
No, not at all.
Like,
it's like the opposite of a book festival.
Yeah, really, truly. Like, I really didn't know what to expect. And obviously, I wouldn't have sold that many books if it wasn't 2 days.
Right.
But still, over the 2 days, I sold over 70 books.
That's pretty good.
And, like, the reason that it was so exhausting was because it was me hand selling 70 books, right? Like, having a conversation with over 70 people talking about each book and then being like, do you know anything about this book? And I'm like, oh, do I? Let me tell you about Albatross by Terry Palace. So it was so much fun. I would never do 2 days in a row again. Unless it was like a very special circumstance. It was too tiring. Yeah. To be standing 2 days in a row.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
the hot sun next to my little book stand. Like, it was very overwhelming. Obviously there's going to be people who are like, I work every day standing up. And I'm like, yeah, I really respect it. And I always have. And I've always not understood why cashiers can't sit. Especially like at Walmart or at the grocery store. Like, why aren't you allowed to sit down? I've never understood that. And I worked as a cashier like at Staples when I was a teenager. And I remember that was my least favorite part of it. If you recall, I do have very weak ankles because of my Ehlers-Danlos. So I do think that like particularly I was just feeling wobbly. But I was really leaning against the truck the whole time. Me and the truck really bonded throughout
You're just
the
whole...
whole...
Like, hey, you want to go and buy some books?
I'm just leaning on my truck. I'm like, welcome to my Minitruck.
Would you consider getting like a stool or something for next time so that you can sit?
Yeah, so this was one of those things, like, I did have, like, a camping chair that I would sit in between when there was, like, lulls and stuff, but, what I want to take is, like, this nice wooden chair that I have that I think would be a perfect fit.
Yeah.
But we were parked on grass.
Oh, right.
And so I was like, a stool, I feel like that would, like, sink into the grass weird, but maybe that's fine. Like,
I think it'd be okay.
I think it'd be okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, lots to learn. Let me go through my spreadsheet for you, really.
Okay, please.
Okay, so this is not, okay, this is another room for improvement, okay?
Okay.
I think I need to write down in the moment of the sale what book got sold.
Oh,
because,
oh gosh, you didn't do that.
No, I did not, because it was so overwhelming. So
Yeah.
basically I would like sell all the books to a person, and then I'd say to Connor was the guy who was writing everything
sick.
down. So I'd be like,
That's good that
they
you
just
had
bought
assistance.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, they bought 84 Charing Cross Road and the Bell Jar. He's like, okay. And then I would have like 4 sales in a row, and I'd look
That's
up
a
at
lot,
Connor lost, because I'd be like, I just sold 4 things and it was so fast. And he's like, don't worry, I got them all. And I'm like, okay, thank you. So I do think I need a better system there. Obviously, the optimal thing would be a barcode scanner.
Yeah,
where I'm
but
just like
that's a whole
scanning
other thing,
everything.
yeah.
But that's like a piece of tech that I need to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I also just don't think that most, I don't know. I was saying this to my friends, because like my brother came to visit, and he brought his friend to visit for the fair and stuff. And I thought, like, I said to them, I don't think other events will be this busy. Like, this is like a carnival, and people are like walking around. And they were like, I don't know. I think Halifax is going to be busier.
That's
I was
true.
like, oh God.
Yeah, it's true. It kind of actually worked out that your first event was like a small town one instead of a big Halifax thing. Because they're probably right. It probably will be like double the busyness.
I'm nervous. And I will also say that I came home on the Friday, like fell asleep. Saturday, fell asleep. But then Sunday, yesterday, I ordered a lot of books. I was like, because I got depleted. Yeah. Right? I had to restock, but also like, there were specific trends that I noticed. I guess, well, let me just pivot to that quickly.
Okay.
I texted you about this, Rayleigh.
Yes.
What was the genre that people were looking for the most that I didn't have?
I wonder, could it be the one genre you don't read at all and don't have any interest in, really? Fantasy?
100%! Ding, ding, ding! I had a lot of people who would be like looking at the shelves, and I would say like, what do you read? And they would be like, fantasy. And I'd be like, oh!
I did not come prepared for that.
I was not prepared for fantasy at all. And so, well, that's not true. I did have a couple of fantasy picks on the shelves. I had Lord of the Rings.
Princess Bride.
I had some piratey books that like a Brandon Sanderson. I had The Name of the Wind because of you.
Yeah, and the Princess Bride was in the pirate section too, right?
Yeah, I had Princess Bride, and I had Emerald, Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Oh, right. Yes. It's all coming back to me.
And then that other... Yeah, that other one that's like got the really beautiful cover. Deep? No.
Because you had mermaid. Do you have mermaid books on the truck? I can't remember if you did
No,
that.
I didn't do mermaid books this time. I just did pirate books. But no, it's The Adventures of Al something. It's a name I can't pronounce. Anyways, I had that one on the truck as well. Okay. And so I did have a couple of fantasy books, so I was able to point to them, but it was like 4 or 5. Yeah. And so I did get home, and I ordered a bunch of cozy fantasy.
Oh, that's
I was
smart.
like, that is something I can stand behind.
Yeah.
It's not something that I've read a lot of, but it is something that I like the sound of and I think is fun. And so I ordered Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust. And then I was basically looking up like, what are the cozy fantasies that people are loving right now?
Yeah.
Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, because I also had some people who were like looking for witch stuff.
Okay.
But then I also ordered Howl's Moving Castle. I had ordered The Hobbit, but it hadn't arrived because it was on back order. So I ordered some more copies of The Hobbit. So I've ordered like some more fantasy to have a little cozy fantasy section. And then I also decided to order a bunch of books that are about bookmobiles because I just thought like that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I ordered Waiting for the Biblioburo, which is really, really cute. It's a kid book. Then there's The Giver of Stars and The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek, which I was reading, and there's like a whole exciting controversy about those books because the woman who wrote The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek has said that Jojo Moyes, who wrote The Giver of Stars, like plagiarized her book.
Oh my God.
But the publisher of The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek has said, like, we've had our lawyers look into this and we don't think that Jojo Moyes has plagiarized.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I'll just order both. And but they're both about like the women who were pack horse librarians.
Oh,
which is so
cool.
Yeah, amazing. I got The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. I don't know if you remember me talking about that book. That one's not a bookmobile specifically, but it's like a cute middle grade book about a girl who lives on a school bus, a converted school bus. Oh my God, there's a book called Moose's Book Bus. It's a moose who runs a book bus.
Oh, he's an actual moose. Okay.
He's a moose. It's a kid's book.
Interesting.
Yeah, so anyways, I had some others on there as well. So I ordered a bunch of those. And then I just reordered a bunch of the books that sold so that we can pivot back to my spreadsheet. Okay, let's see. First, I'll start by talking about books that I sold more than one of.
That's what I was good. That was gonna be one of my big questions. Like, what were the big sellers?
Albatross. Sold 2 of those.
Oh my gosh, yay.
Anne of Green Gables, the graphic novel. I think I sold 3 of those.
That makes sense.
People like were really into Anne, which excites me.
Yeah,
you can imagine how happy I was about that. And a lot of people just picked that one up independently. I mean, and I would be like, oh my God, yes, flip through it. And they'd start flipping through it and they'd just be like blown away because obviously Brenna Thumler is the queen of illustration and the greatest illustrator I've ever met. The Bell Jar, sold 2 of those. Ooh. Had such a cool, exciting moment when there was this. I didn't actually do that sale. There was only like 2 or 3 books that I didn't sell, and it was like Connor because I was so busy with other people that Connor would take over. And he sold A Teenage Girl, The Bell Jar. Aww. And I was like, we might have just like changed her life. like being a teenager and reading The Bell Jar, a teenage girl and reading The Bell Jar. I'm like, that's it. You're a reader now. Sold 3 copies of The Blue Castle.
Oh, so Ariel, that must make you so happy.
It made me so happy. The only bummer about The Blue Castle is that I can't figure out how to order the edition that I want.
Yeah, because you just did you get the little mass market paperback or like which one was the one you had?
I can't even find that one.
Oh.
It's just kind of randomly, they're not self-published, but they're like really, really small presses because that book is in the public domain. So it's kind of just a random cover.
Oh, dang.
And they're not ugly. They're nice covers, but they're just not a very great quality
Like the
book.
one you have is really beautiful. Is that the one you're trying to get?
So beautiful. Yeah, I'm trying to get the one by Tundra Books. I do know a person who works at Tundra Books, so maybe I should just reach out to them directly. I sold 2 copies of Born to be Hanged, A History of Pirates.
Oh!
Incredible. What else did I sell more than one of? Ooh, did I sell 2 Stardusts? Maybe I did. This chart says that I did. Nice. I sold 1. This is really, I'm so grateful to tell you what I'm about to say. I sold 4 copies of Treasure Island.
Oh, that's good.
And thank God, because I bought like 6 or 7. So I was like, will I sell these? Because I bought so many.
Yeah, that's always one of those risky things where you just don't know what's actually going to sell. Like you might have big ideas in your head like, oh, this is a great book. There's definitely going to be people looking for this, and then you might sell none. So that was definitely lucky.
Yeah, okay. So those are the books that I sold multiples of, I think. I might have sold 2 copies of Outlawed by Anna North as well. Like I said, I really this is a big, exciting lesson for next time. Write down the books right when you sell them. Even if it slows down the moment.
Exactly, you kind of have to.
It's really worth it for afterwards.
Yeah, because you don't want to forget. If you suddenly forget, then your inventory's all off and you're going to be freaking out later, and that's no fun.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now let's talk about which books that I sell from your shelf, from your bookshelf. Yeah, I know. It's a scary moment.
Scary, but also I think I know that you've sold at least a few because you sent me a picture of the truck on Saturday and I could see that some books were missing. from the section.
Yes.
I just couldn't remember what they were in the moment, but I was like, it looks smaller, so that's good.
I definitely sold some of yours.
Okay.
I will say this particular crowd, I had so much fun setting up the shelves, obviously, and I did change how I organized them on Saturday based on what happened on Friday.
Okay.
So basically, I didn't sell, other than Albatross, but it sold well. It was in the best books for binging and my absolute favorites section.
Okay.
And by the way, if you guys remember, I had a section that was my top 10 favorite books from the last 5 years.
Right, yeah.
I wasn't able to source a bunch of the ones that were on my list. So I ended up changing that list to be called my absolute favorites.
Okay. I mean, that works too.
Yeah, and it worked. It's the same idea. But I had Albatross in that section, and in the best books for binging section, that's where I sold them. I did not sell a single book from the sports books that aren't about sports section.
So disappointing.
It's so disappointing. And then after I was partway through Saturday, and I was like, I can't believe I still haven't sold a single book from this. I'm going to try pushing it a bit more.
Yeah.
Just mentioning it to people more. No reaction. People's eyes just glazed over. No one cared.
Oh, that's so fun. I mean, I kind of get it, because if you had asked me 10 years ago, to look at a sports book section, I would have been the same. I would have been so uninterested.
I totally agree. But I was like, I thought the packaging of sports books that aren't really about sports would be enough.
And they're pretty books. They're cool looking books. It's funny though. It is interesting.
It is funny. So I'll definitely have to just move them to different sections.
Yeah.
Because I can pitch a lot of those as my favorite books, or pitch them as best books for binging or other things.
Yeah.
So I'll just have to find new homes for them. But I put your shelf, books my best friend thinks you should read, next to books my brother thinks you should read.
Good.
And
I mean, that just
people
makes sense.
loved that. They loved it. They were like, these are so cute. And then the people were all over it. So that was a fun pairing, and I think I'll keep doing that. But let's look at the ones that were sold from your shelf. All right, these are in alphabetical order, so they're not in order of the sections or whatever. So I just kind of have to scroll through. Not looking good for you so far. Okay, Crying in H Mart.
Yes, I knew about that one, because we should also talk about the big, the epic best sale? Stack, the epic sale. Yeah. You sent me a photo at one point. I think it was on Saturday. You just sent me a photo, a bunch of photos with no context for any of them. And there was a stack that had, on top of it, everything was a mug, which was exciting.
Yes.
Crying in H Mart.
Mug. Yes.
I don't remember what the other books were.
Keep the Aspidistra Flying.
Yes.
Ballad for Sophie.
Oh, yes.
Skunk and Badger, which is a beautiful children's book by John Klassen.
I figured that's what it was.
And 2 pins, the logo pin and the license plate pin.
Yeah, that is the most epic sale. Banger after banger for the books, a mug, 2 pins. Great.
It was the biggest sale of the weekend. I gave her a free tote bag because I was so unbelievably excited by what was going down.
Yeah.
And she was so happy. I was so happy. It was the ideal situation. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, that's the best. So there's nothing better than selling your favorite things and connecting with someone over those favorite things. That's really what it's all about.
It was so beautiful. So she's the one who bought Crying in H Mart, your first sale. Well, actually, it wasn't your first sale. It was just the first one listed here.
Just the most epic.
Great Gatsby. That was in your section.
Yay.
And it was a girl who was really excited about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. Let's see. Into the Wild. That was a CJ pick. The Long Walk. Someone bought The Long Walk.
Yes! That was one of the ones I was worried about. I was like, is anybody going to want this?
I did have one woman who came, and it was so funny. I wasn't yet at the truck. So basically I had my truck, and then I had a tent that I bought because a canopy tent like you see at vendors and at sporting events, just a little tent.
Right.
Because if it started to rain, I just wanted to be able to run the canopy tent over top of my whole affair. But I had it also for shade because it was a big sunny weekend. We were out all day, obviously. Yeah. But anyway, so we were kind of sitting under the tent, and I would eat my lunch in there, or I'm literally right next to it. It's it's 3 feet away, but I was in the tent eating, and a woman I think her husband came up to the truck, and it was just so funny to overhear certain things. This woman said, "Oh yeah, Stephen King. He hasn't written anything good since his accident." And I was like, that is an insane thing to say.
Is
and so I
insane.
went, isn't that crazy? And because if you don't know, Stephen King was in a massive car accident. He nearly died. Like it was like a pivotal moment in his life. And she was saying that he didn't write, and he hasn't written anything.
But that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, his accident was like in 2000.
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking. I'm like, wait, what? Has she not read The Institute? Has she not read The Outsider? Come on, lady.
I know, it's so wild.
So
and so I went up and I was like, "Oh, you like Stephen King?" Like I said that to kind of lead her on.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, "Well, he hasn't written anything good since his accident." Like she really doubled down on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" Right? Like what does that mean? And she's like, "I've just felt like all of the books since his accident have a lot of swearing in them."
Okay.
It was like a very specific thing that she had with, and I was like, "That's so." I was like, "I can't wait to tell Raylene that weird little anecdote."
That's hilarious. Like I don't know. Now I'll have to keep tabs on that. I'll have to look at before the accident and after when I'm reading his books and see if I know the difference.
Does he increase the amount of swearing? I'm like, I think that he just swears.
I'm pretty sure that that's not true. Yeah. Like there might be no swearing in Carrie. And maybe there's no swearing in Salem's Lot, but the rest of his, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It's so funny, so funny. Okay, so sold The Long Walk, which was exciting, and I pitched it to another person, and they almost bought it, and they just ended up buying something else, and I was like, "Oh, damn, sorry, Raylene."
It's okay. One is better than none.
Okay, still scrolling. Oh, Tiny Beautiful Things. That's not on your shelf, but that just feels like a communal win
Exactly.
for us.
I would put that on my shelf. Like if you could put that on like 6 different categories if you wanted to. That would be kind of funny actually. You have it on like best books for binging, your top favorites, books I recommend.
Yeah, we can just have it sprinkled all over. Yeah. Okay, I'm not seeing another one, but I know that there was another one that I'm not remembering what it was.
That's fine. No Name of the Winds.
No.
That's okay.
A lot of people came up. This was another really interesting thing. There's like a big difference between the books people pick up and the books people want to actually
totally
buy. And that's really funny because like a lot of people, like that was one of the books people pointed at the most. A lot of people were like, "Hey, The Name of the Wind, I love that book."
Yeah.
Or, "Oh, like my brother loves that book," or like, "I love whatever."
Yeah.
It would say to their partner like, "Look, I love that book." But then they wouldn't actually buy it. Okay, wait. I just looked at the photo I sent you of your shelf, and it has reminded me of the other big one that's sold from your category. IQ 84.
Really?
Isn't that epic?
Someone bought that? It was still in the photo when you sent it to me, so I was just like, I had written it off that I wasn't going to sell.
Someone bought it. Very exciting. Someone bought that book. And his name was Nolan, and he was really nice.
Oh, good job,
I remember it really specifically because he was he was super friendly, and he came with his mom, and they were talking about buying kids books for a baby shower.
Okay.
And I like got to talk to them all about that, and it was really fun. And they bought some board books from me, which was really nice. Yeah. But then at the end, he was like, "You know what? I'm also gonna buy IQ 84." And I was like, "Woo!
Yeah, what a pivot."
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really,
fantastic.
Really nice.
Okay, well that to me is the peak sale. Like that's one that I really didn't think you would like sell that quickly, like in your first weekend, because I mean it's a huge book. It's probably a little expensive because it is like a massive book. So that's impressive. I really. So I
had to order that one again. Yesterday I ordered it, and I found the pretty version that's like the 3 books in a slipcase. So I've ordered that one.
Good. I think that's a better version because I wish all I'll like say this till the day I die. I think every large book should do that. Like give you the option, because it's just so much nicer to have a small book in your hands. And it is. You know, I just prefer that.
It's so much nicer. Yeah. It's true. Okay, let's see. Any other books I want to mention? 84 Charing Cross Road. Was so excited that someone bought that.
Yeah, that's great.
Like I mentioned, we sold a lot of Brenna Thumler's books, which I was really, really happy about. And yeah, that just made my heart smile. Sold a copy of Blue Horses. Incredible. Incredible. Dust of 100 Dogs I had on the truck and sold that one, which I was so thrilled about. A.S. King, our queen. Let's see. How to Do Nothing. Love that book. Keep the Aspidistra Flying, like I mentioned. That felt like a win. I was like, That's a deep cut.
Here's a question for you, actually, because I know you had to change your favorite book thing. Did you have any copies of Animal Farm?
I did.
I guess in the classic section, right?
Yeah, I had some that I had purchased for the classic section, and I swung them into a couple into
Did you sell
the
any?
other one. No, I did not sell any copies of
Great
Animal Farm.
Gatsby sold, but not Animal Farm. The new rivalry is who can sell more of their favorite classic on your
That's so
truck.
funny. I didn't even think about Animal Farm this whole weekend. I don't know why. Like, I only had one copy of it in my favorite section and a bunch of them or like 2 of them or 3 of them in the classic section, and so I wasn't even thinking. But now that you've said it, I just won't shelf Great Gatsby anymore, and I'll win that competition.
I guess that's true. I have no power here.
I sold a copy of The True Deceiver and the first Moomins book to the same girl. She was so cool. She was this awesome, like, teenager or early 20s, and she was like, I love Tove Jansson. She's like my favorite illustrator. And she was flipping through the Moomin book. Yeah. And I was like, have you seen this? And I gave her The True Deceiver. I was like, did you know that she writes books for adults too? And she was like, no. I was like, it's amazing. You have to. Yeah, she was really
that's another cool sale. I like that one a lot.
That was really cool. You see, here's one that I had no idea I sold. Publicly Shamed. It says cash. So that means Connor sold it.
Good job, Connor. I did see someone awesome. I saw someone's hands holding that book in one of the photos you sent me. I was like, oh, did someone buy it?
I know. It's so exciting.
I can recognize it by its little back spine.
Maybe the last one I'll mention is Vanishing Fleece. So, you know that book that I love about
that's another cool
knitting
one.
and wool.
I love that.
I was like, I'm going to buy one of these. I doubt I'll sell it. And then this woman came up and she was holding it. And I was like, oh, that is such a good book. Like, and then I told her all about it. This is why it was so cool to just have a shop full, like a shop with my mini shop full of books I've actually read. Because every time someone picks it up, if I can tell they're close to wanting to buy it, I can really
push them over the edge. Yeah.
Like, I really can. And like that happened with Tiny Beautiful Things. Someone was holding Tiny Beautiful Things. I was like, you couldn't have picked a better book off of this shelf. Let me tell you about that. And I told her, and it was so beautiful. She was like, I literally have chills right now. I'm buying this book. And I'm like, okay.
Sounds cool.
No problem. But yeah, the woman who was holding Vanishing Fleece, I was like, that book is so good. And I told her all about it. And she was like, okay, I have to buy this. My friend loves knitting. And I think she would love this book. I was like, awesome. She will. Like, she will. So that was really cool. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I know that, it is different than a different type of bookshop where you have thousands of books. Yeah. I had like a couple hundred on my I think my bookshelves hold about 300 to 400 books. Yeah. But I think I only probably have like 200 to 300 on the shelf because I have merch as well, right? I have like room for my hats and my shirts and my pins and my mugs and now my tote bags, which I did want to just show you.
They're so cute.
They just came in time for the event. So it has the logo on the front, and then on the back it says, I'm thinking about books.
That's a perfect tote bag. It's just a perfect tote bag.
I'm literally so happy with them. And these have the like little gusset at the bottom, which I think is so nice.
That's important.
With a tote bag has that. They are thin. They were like a lighter one because they were all cheaper. So I was like, I'll be able to sell these for cheaper.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I'm really happy about it. And I do think I'm going to keep doing that. Like if someone spends over $100, I'll definitely give them a tote bag.
That's definitely a cool thing to do. People remember those types of things. Can you imagine if that person keeps coming back and like every time they just like buy 5 books or whatever, get a little tote bag? It'd be so cute.
It's so beautiful. And so like I did give a bookmark to everyone that bought a book, and also to some people who didn't buy books. Like they would spend a bunch of time and we'd chat, and I was like, do you want a bookmark? And they're like, yeah. So that somebody literally said, they're like, somebody was like, this is a really good detail. These are good bookmarks. I was like, thank you. And also people loved the stamp. I had one girl who was like a teenager and I was stamped her book, and she's like, this is so cool. I saw on the internet that they do this at Shakespeare and Company.
Aww.
This is really cool. And I was like, I know they do it there. That's where I got the idea. Like crying. And then I had one of my favorite moments was, I think it was a family. I think it was a mom and 3 sisters, or like a mom, 2 sisters, and a friend.
Okay.
But they were all dressed very similar, like very they looked like forest witches. Like they were very hippie-ish, very like, I don't know, they were so cool. And they all came up to the truck and they were all pulling books down and reading them and looking. In the end, they bought, what did they buy? They bought some really cool ones. I'm trying to remember. I think they bought How to Do Nothing.
Ooh, okay.
And another one. But anyways, I guess it doesn't matter. But they were so cool. And I was like, would you like me to stamp your book? And they said, oh, sure. And then they were all watching as I did it. And I like put the stamp down and then I like peeled it up to reveal it. And all 4 of them went, wow! And it was so loud and like so pure. Like they were so excited.
Joy,
and I was like, right? Like I was like, you get me.
Yeah.
You really
it's
get me.
satisfying and it's beautiful.
It was so good. So I guess I can wrap up my talk about the truck there, but it was just a big one. We won't talk about every event in this much detail, but it was the first one.
It's huge.
It was the first one, and it just went down so well. There is one problem, though.
Uh-oh.
The truck is having a lot of troubles turning on.
Oh, that's really not good.
It's actually really bad.
You can't get it anywhere if it doesn't turn
I
on.
was like ready to go and like get on my way, and the truck wouldn't turn on in my driveway. And I was like, whoa, this is a disaster.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really bad. And so I was trying all sorts of things, and finally it turned on. I was like, okay. And so I drove to the event and everything, and it worked. It made it all the way to the event.
Thank God.
And then I parked it in a random like parking spot because I didn't know where I was supposed to go. Like I was like, where's my spot? I don't know where I am supposed to go as a vendor. So I parked it. I found the administrator of the event and I talked to her and I was like, where do I go? And she was like, you go right over there. I was like, okay, cool. Get back in the truck. It will not turn on again.
Stuck
and
in
I
the
was
parking
like,
lot.
I was stuck in the parking lot. Thankfully, I was blocking the way into the entire event a little bit. And so like a back way into it. And a guy who worked for the carnival came up to me and was like, do you mind moving your truck forward a little bit? We need to get our big trucks through here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would love to move my truck, but you see, it's not turning on. And then I took in this man and I was like, this is a guy that knows about cars. Like I could just feel it in my bones. I was like, do you know about cars? You look like you know about cars. He was like, I guess. And you could tell like he obviously did.
Yeah.
He was like shy. And I was like, could you please try starting my car, Mr. Carnival Man, sir? And he was like, all right. He's like 18, 20 years old.
Of course.
I'm like, so I jump out and I give him like, I'm like, get in there, do it. And he like turned it on. He was able to turn it on.
Nice.
So I was like, leave it. Thank you. Oh, don't turn it off. And I backed it up and parked where I needed to park.
Yeah.
And so again, like I kept managing to get it where it needed to go,
Right.
but I'm very worried about this next week's event. In the worst case scenario, it would be that I just have to like rent a U-Haul towing thing and I'll just tow it to the event, which is obviously not the point of the truck,
Yes.
but like would still function for one event if I have to do it. But yeah, I'll be taking it to the mechanic tomorrow, and I think it's a spark plug issue. So
Yeah, because it has no problem running, right? It's just like the starter.
No, once it's on, it was running fine,
Yeah.
and everything's working fine. So I think it's just either the starter or a spark plug. And my brother's friend who came, Victoria, love Victoria, who came and hung out with us a lot of the time. Her grandfather's a mechanic, and so we were on the phone with him for a while trying to troubleshoot it, and he's like convinced that it's a spark plug.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if this old man who's like seen every car for the last 50 years thinks it's a spark plug issue, and he kept saying like, he'd be like, do you smell gas? And I'd be like, I do. I smell gas, which to me seems bad, right? He's like, oh, great. That's a good sign. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I'm realizing how little I know about cars.
Right.
No, it's not true. I don't know nothing about cars, but I don't know that much. And so I'm like at the point where I'm like, I need to learn more about cars and stuff.
Totally.
So anyways, that is our one big glitch where I'm going to have to figure that out.
Yeah. Okay.
All part of the adventure.
Yes. Okay. I had a couple of questions.
Oh my God. Okay.
Were my questions. Okay. One question is just like a logistical thing. I was wondering, do you like put all of, like when you're driving the truck, are all the books like in the back of the truck, or did you have to bring a different car like to carry all the books?
Great question.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Because I had other people asking me, like other friends asking me that same question. Yes, all of the books fit on the truck.
That's perfect.
And all of the merch fits on the truck. Everything that I need to take with me fits on the truck.
Okay.
However, we did also take a second vehicle because we were going to like a different town and everything. So we took Connor's car, and I did put some stuff in there because of this the truck not starting problem. I was like very worried. And also because I'm basically finished the truck, but I'm not fully finished the truck. And so I haven't built the back doors that can lock.
Oh, okay.
And so I can't leave stuff overnight in the truck.
Right.
And so we just shoved everything into Connor's car and everything.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I can carry everything with me, which is awesome.
That's perfect. That's what I was hoping you'd say.
That was another question, another reason why I only have bookshelves on one side of the truck.
Yeah.
So that I can easily access through the back all of my stock
That's
and
true.
everything.
Yeah.
And then because like basically I would like sell my copy of a book that's on there, and I just walk to the back of the truck, move my curtain, get in the next book that I need, reload it. Right. It worked really well. But the other main reason is so that people can't steal stuff on the other side of the truck.
Like if you eventually have a staff or whatever, like if you do have someone who can be like your second, and then you can have shelves on both sides, that would be really cool too. But that would totally not necessary, because like you said, it can hold about 400 books or whatever, which is the thing. Like you ordered a lot of books, but when you sent me photos, I was like, oh, there's like so much room. Like you had merch on the shelves too, but I was like, oh, you could easily fit like lots more books, which is good. Yeah, because we weren't sure.
And so on Saturday, I did put a lot more out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That was
what was
cool.
your other question?
Okay, my other question. Actually, I have two questions now, and then I'll be done. My second question was, how long until you can order more books? Like, do you know how long it's going to be? Like, are you able to restock for the next event? Probably not, obviously. Like,
oh, okay. You know, this is a great question, and we also got this in the YouTube comments.
Oh, okay.
People are like, how long does it take you to get books? So, like, how far out do you have to order?
Because in my memory, I used to work in a bookstore. It would be like typically like at least 1 or 2 weeks like after sending in an order, and you usually have to get a minimum amount of like books or a dollar amount before you could send the order, depending on the supplier. But I was just curious how that's all working out for you.
Yeah, 100%. So all of the distributors that I go through say 5 to 7 business days.
Okay.
Is that accurate? That's a different question. Because two of the distributors that I got books from, their books arrived after like 3 days.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was so fast.
Okay, that's good.
Like, obviously, like 3 days from when they shipped it. So there would be like a couple of days, like maybe 1 or 2 days where they're processing the order, and then it would ship. So I think on the first day that the first time I ever ordered books, I think I ordered them on the weekend. And I had those orders like on Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday.
Amazing.
I was amazed. So I was like, okay, well, that's really good to know.
Yeah.
Those guys are fast.
Yeah.
They didn't have many books, though. They were like discount places.
Okay.
And then the other 2 places that I ordered from, one is like the biggest distributor in Canada. They took like a week, a business week. So it was basically like, I can't trust that I'd have their stuff earlier than 2 weeks. Like I have to be ordering 2 weeks in advance. And then the American one was a little bit longer than that, because obviously they're shipping from the States. So basically I have to be 2 weeks ahead of what's going on, which is good timing in this case, because my event happened and 2 weeks later is the Halifax event.
Yes.
So I had my event on Friday, Saturday, sold so many of my books, like basically a third of my books I sold.
Yeah.
So like I said on Sunday, yesterday, ordered a bunch more that should hopefully all arrive in 2 weeks. So I'll have them for the Halifax event. This is a difficult one. This is the difficult part of the whole puzzle, for sure.
But now that you know like what sold on the first one, like every single event you do will give you more information. So you'll know if you want to order, say, 4 copies of a certain book instead of just ordering 1 or 2. Like it's the experience that like comes with each event will give you more information that will make each next event easier, basically.
I think you're totally right. And like I don't know. You were there when I ordered all my first books. I was freaking out. Like, I was sending you photos. I was like, is this enough books for Haley? Like, I don't know if this is lots of books or no books.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going to sell 5 books or 100 books.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to sell like these types of books or those, like, zero data.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
now you have some data,
idea.
so less freak out.
Yeah, exactly. So now I know a little bit more, and I'm like, okay, like, I obviously don't think people are going to be buying as many pirate books at the next festival, but I can expect people to be buying these types of books, and like classics sold pretty well.
Yeah, and like kids books, it sounds like kids books did okay.
That was another huge thing. Kids books sold really well, and so I've ordered a bunch more kids books than I had before, and I'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
And again, we're still kind of in the first half of the summer here, so if those books last me a long time, that's okay.
Yeah,
because I do have a lot of events coming.
Totally. Okay, and then my final question was about the merch situation, because obviously you had mugs, you had shirts, you had hats, pins, and tote bags. Yeah. So I was curious, like, how all those things sold. Like, I'm imagining if you sold a bunch of hats and t-shirts, that now there's just like people in this random small town in Nova Scotia who are like have a matching uniform of like to show that they're book lovers.
It's so cute. I love that so much. Okay, so this was really, really interesting, and I think it will really change depending on the type of event that I'm at and the type of town that I'm in. Like, I bet you that Halifax will sell very differently than a very rural town.
Yeah, I'm intrigued about that.
So I'm very curious about, like, how that's going to go. To answer your question, the main merch item that I sold were hats, which is fascinating to me.
I think it makes sense. One size fits all. It's very easy to just grab a hat.
Exactly. Picking up a hat, if you like what it says on it and you just try it on, you're like, this is great, I'll just buy it.
Yeah.
Very easy. Whereas mugs sold terribly.
Oh.
Like, I sold 1 mug, maybe 2 mugs.
I'm
trying to remember if I sold 1 or 2 mugs. The mugs thing, I had messed it up how I had input it into my machine. And so I was selling them as books. And then changing the tax thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I think I only sold 1 or 2 mugs. And I didn't sell any on the first day. And I'm not really sure why. I mean, I guess there's like a book person. There's like a casual reader. That person will buy a book.
Yeah.
Right? For sure. But you'd have to be a pretty intense reader to want a mug about books.
That's true. It is a very specific, like, I'm a reader mug. It's not just like... Yes. Yeah, a mug that any old person might want. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. So those did not sell very well at all. I didn't sell any tote bags, which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
But again, you'd have to be like a big fan of the truck.
Exactly. I was going to say, like, give it time. I think that once people who like revisit your truck at different events, maybe like eventually someone will be like, yeah, I love that truck. I want that tote bag.
And that being said, I did sell a good amount of the license plate pins, even to people who didn't buy a book and like have never heard of me and they just like the truck. Yeah. They're like, oh, I want to buy the little license plate pin.
That makes sense.
So I am excited to order, because it's always been my intention to order some pins that are of the truck itself.
Oh, yeah.
That like are like a little blue miniature truck with bookshelves on the back. Like, I
want
to make a pin of that, but I couldn't until like a week ago when I'd painted it.
Right.
So, or like I guess now 2 weeks ago when I'd painted it, because I didn't know what color to make the pin. And so now that I have that information, I can order some like book truck merch.
Yes. That just gave me an idea. Those would make really good magnets as well.
That's magnets. A really good idea. Yeah.
I just imagined that as a magnet. I'm like, ooh, that would be
I've got
really
to look up how to make a magnet. I've never made a magnet
before.
I
think that would be cool.
But yeah, so stuff like that, I'm a little bit like, it all made sense to me. So yeah, so number 1 seller was the hat, and then the pins, and then the other thing was, what was the other thing I was selling? Oh, the shirts. I did sell some shirts, and I sold some I'm Thinking About Books shirts, which are new and available now online.
Nice.
And I only sold green ones, didn't sell any pink ones.
Yeah, the green ones
makes
are
a lot of sense to me. And then I also sold some of the purple ones, which I was surprised about. That say, do you want to read with me? Because I like the beige ones a lot more than the purple ones.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just a little surprised that that's how it went. But I did sell a couple of the purple ones as well, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
So did I answer your question? I forgot the question.
I think so. It was, I just wanted to know how the merch thing went, because
yeah, right, yeah,
you went really hard into like having everything you could possibly have on the truck. Like I talked about that a few weeks ago, I think, and I'm glad that it worked out. Like I'm glad that you did sell like some of the things that you worked really hard to make.
I sold some of everything except for the tote bag, but I actually partly blame myself because I hung them in a really random corner of the truck and you couldn't really see them. So that was something we all talked about at the end. We were like, we should have one tote bag that's like full of fluff or something so that it shows it open, because they were kind of just folded over in a corner. I think it was mainly down to display.
Yeah. Every little thing counts.
100%.
As you learn. Cool. Well, I'm so glad it went well. That's just awesome. This is a fun episode.
It was such an adventure. I'm so excited. I am so excited to keep going to events and like optimizing and learning how to do it better and seeing which books sell in different communities and in different like zones. And like I said, like I have lots of ideas for bookshelves to have. I did get a lot of that. Yeah. I had a lot of people who like love the bookshelves, like made a point to be like, I love how you've categorized your books. And I'm like, thank you. Like I had a lot of fun doing it. And so I'm excited to like introduce new shelves and like phase out shelves. Like sports books probably will not make another appearance.
Yeah, you have to learn from your mistakes, right?
I have to learn.
Yeah.
And so, now I'm going to have a cozy fantasy shelf. How is that going to fare?
Yeah.
And I'll bring it. I have lots of other shelves I want to do. So we'll see how zoning things in and out is going to go. I'm really excited to keep doing it. Well, I really didn't think that this episode would mainly be a massive update, but this was really fun to talk about.
It was a fun update. I like hearing all about it.
It was a fun update. But we should talk about what we've read.
Yes.
So let's transition over to that. All right. This episode has been very Ariel-centric talking. How about you start us off with your reading update? Tell us what you've read, what you're reading, and what you got.
Yes.
Do it all.
So, okay, I don't have like too many updates, so I'll do my best. So this week I didn't do a lot of reading, which was kind of weird to me. I noticed this on Saturday. I was like, I'm still at 40% in A Dance with Dragons. Like, this was my update last week, was that I was at 39% or whatever. Now I'm at 40. And so yesterday I was like, I should read a little bit. So I read a few chapters. Now I'm at 45% of the way through A Dance with Dragons. I don't know what I've been doing, though, is the thing. I was like, I should have a good update. Like, I spent all this time doing other things, so I didn't have time to read. I just didn't really read, but I feel like I'm really in the mood for reading today. And today, it's a holiday today. It is Canada Day today. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to like lean in, even though we're technically working right now. I'm going to like make the rest of the day a vacation. And so I think I'm going to sit outside and read and just like have a really cozy day. So that's what I'm currently reading. I haven't started any audiobooks, though I am thinking about maybe doing that just to have something else kind of going on in the background. But I did buy a couple of books on Saturday. I was like, you know what? I had some books that I wanted to take to my local bookstore, and I was like, I'm just going to look around while I'm there and just see if I find anything. And I found a couple of random books. So the first one's not too random. It is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Which
that's so funny. I have that one on the truck.
Right? I know. This was one that I was like, you should really have this on the truck, but I haven't read it yet. I've just been really excited about it. And one of the girls that works at the bookstore that I talk to her almost every time I go in, she's always like, you have to read this book. And like, she really loves Mother Thing is her book that she always recommends to me. I'm like, I've already read that, but like recommend me something else. And I've been telling her she needs to read Bunny. Like that's kind of like the zone where we operate in. And so I was like, okay, this seems like the perfect book for me to buy from her. And so I finally did. I've just been waiting to find a used copy, but what are the chances of that happening? So I just finally did it. I bought it. I'm really excited to read that one. But then the next book, Kyle convinced me to buy this.
Oh my God, it's so big.
Illustrated by America's Test Kitchen. The subtitle is A Step-by-Step Guide to Achieving Bakery Quality Results at Home. And it is this massive, beautiful cookbook that's all about bread. There's like dozens and dozens of different types of bread. They even have pizza.
Cool.
Wow. But I have decided, like over the years, I've learned about myself that I'm not much of a baker, but that's because I was trying to bake like cookies and muffins and cake. And I'm bad at baking those things. I'm really, really bad at baking those things. But I've decided that I want to be a bread baker. And so I've been doing that. I've been baking sourdough. I'm actually going to be baking another loaf later today once it's done doing its thing. And I made a different loaf of bread a couple weeks ago for a party with my friends, and I was like, wait, this is so fun, like kneading dough. I haven't done this before. And so I saw this book, and Kyle was like, oh, let's just flip through it, because he's excited about me wanting to make bread as well. And there was like...
Because he gets bread.
Exactly. And so we were flipping through it, and there was like a cheese loaf. There's like dinner rolls that look delicious. And there's all these different types of breads, and I got really excited. And so
cool.
I was like, you know what? It's a little expensive, but I'm going to just do it. I'm going to just buy it, seize the day. And it is just like a gorgeous book, and there's so many photos, so I know that like it has really good step-by-step instructions and like shows you how to do everything. So that is my new journey. I am going to become a prolific bread maker.
I love that.
Just call me PETA.
I really love that.
Yeah.
That also reminds me, when I was in my sourdough phase during the lockdowns, I found some really, really good videos about how to make sourdough bread, because I was watching like a lot of videos, and there's some that are not helpful, and there are some that really were, and maybe I should send them to you, because there was a couple that like would give little tiny tips that like made a huge difference.
Yeah, like even I was just looking at the sourdough in here, and it's a little bit different from the one that I make, so I'm intrigued to try their version.
Yeah.
But they have little pro tips on like all the breads, where it's like, here's a potential problem that might come up, and here's how to solve it. And one of the tips was just like, you can put a little bit of oil on the blade that you use to like score the bread, because sometimes if it's catching, it just makes it. And so I'm gonna try that today. I'm really excited to try that, because that is a problem that I have had. So it just seems like a really cool, useful book, and I really like America's Test Kitchen. Like I watch a lot of their YouTube videos, and I think that they're really cool. So I was like, you know what? Let's just lean in. Let's just go for it.
Cool.
So,
I love that.
But that's it. I just bought some books. I haven't finished anything.
Okay, well, I haven't finished anything either. I've just been working like a mad woman on this truck.
Yeah.
And then doing the truck, and then yesterday just resting. And today also basically just resting, other than the many hours we're spending here today recording this podcast. But I have started 2 books. So the first one is Underground, Overground, A Passenger's History of the Tube by Andrew Martin, one of my studious potatoes.
That makes me so happy.
As you know. Yep. So I'm not that far into it, but I like read the prologue and started the first chapter, and it's kind of my like physical book that I'm reading. Yeah. It's on my bedside. I'm really looking forward to reading some of this today. I'm loving it so far. He's got a really fun voice. Like he's very friendly and jovial, and he just loves trains, which I'm like, I get that. Let
fantastic.
me tell you. I'm also just, I'm so jealous. Because, so basically his dad worked for British Rail. There it is. My father worked on British Rail, and I had free first-class train travel on the National Rail Network in the form of a privilege pass. I also had free travel on the London Underground, which seemed almost indecent, given that my dad did not work for the Underground, and that I came from 250 miles north of London. If at all bored in York, I'd say, Dad, I'm off to London. And I'd collect up my privilege pass and a handful of the privilege underground tickets that were usually lying around the house. And so he would just hop on the train, go to London, and just ride the underground all over the place. Yeah. And I'm like, that level of freedom and independence that we just don't have in North America. You have to be like 16 to get your driver's license.
Yeah, you have to be able to drive. You have to have a car.
You have to have a car. So that means you have to buy a car and get insurance. And it's so complicated and it's so dangerous. And like, it's like here is a teenager that gets to just ride trains all day.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And I'm like, so cool. So anyway, loving it. The other thing that I've started is Agatha Christie and A Very Elusive Woman by Lucy Worsley, my first biography of the year.
Oh, this is great.
So this I'm doing as an audiobook.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I was listening to it as I was sanding wood. And so basically, for the truck. So basically I was like, in my ideal world, I would have all the time in the world to sit and read these giant biographies. And I was like, but the truth is I don't have that time. Yeah. And listening to them is still awesome. And I'll still retain a bunch of the information. And if there are periods where I want to sit and read, I can. And I can do both, which I often do with audiobooks. Like I'll listen to parts of them, read parts of them. Like I can do whatever I want. But I'd rather have listened to it than not read it at all.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm just going to...
And nonfiction as audiobooks, I think it sometimes makes them better. Like, honestly, I think that having it like a podcast in your ears is really nice.
I totally agree. So I'm really, really enjoying it so far. It's narrated by Lucy Worsley, the author, which is awesome. So she is, and she's very enthusiastic. Obviously, you have to be enthusiastic about the thing that you're writing about if you're writing and spending years like studying this person and putting a book together about them. So I'm doing it, Raylene. I'm doing what I said I would do last time.
I'm really proud of you. Like I'm really proud that you've actually started both of those books. You're doing it.
Yeah, so I haven't finished them. I haven't made insane progress on them, but I have started them, and that is the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we take a little visit to the mailroom?
Sure.
All right, I picked out some comments from YouTube land. I'll start off here. So, Miss Jess Snape says, I can't wait to hear how industrious Ariel has been this year so far. I already know it's very industrious. So, if you guys recall, this was my word of the year, was industrious. And I wanted to be industrious, and I just felt like, I'm doing it. I built the truck. But I also, this made me want to ask you, did you have a word of the year? And because I don't remember if you did or not.
I don't think so. Maybe just free. I might have said I want to be free.
I might have been free. Okay. I think you seem free so far.
And then I gave myself a bunch of TBRs. I know, it's kind of hilarious.
Okay, I got this comment from Maria Epis493, which also I got from a bunch of other people, sort of.
Okay.
Ariel, don't memoirs count as part of your biography's goal? And like other people being like, you've already read a couple of memoirs. I don't think that they count.
No.
Like, they're pretty different. A memoir is like a very, very subjective person usually telling like a specific experience that happened
or like a time in their life. That was impactful.
And they're like, for example, Cheryl Strayed talk in Wild. That's about the time that she hiked the PCT.
Yeah.
And like, that's what most of that book is about. And like, she'll do flashbacks and other stuff that informs it, but it's like about that hike.
Yeah. If somebody wrote a biography about Cheryl Strayed, it would be a lot more broad. It would cover her entire life, start to now.
Yeah, and it would like include her family's history and like what was the context of the history at the time that Cheryl Strayed was hiking the PCT.
Right.
Like there'd be all of this data about everything else. So, and it's like you said, like it's written by someone else. So no. Angela says, wow, I forgot about Studious Potatoes.
6 months in. We haven't talked about it once.
I think it's so funny. And she also said, these goals episodes are my favorite. I always wish I had a ball of popcorn when I watch or listen to them. Which I just think is so funny to think like we're kind of like people's sporting events.
Yeah.
Where they're like checking in on how are the stats this year going. I think that's so awesome.
That's pressure.
Okay, and then this was the person that asked exactly what you asked at Hillary429. I'm surprised that you're able to order niche books for these events with shorter turnaround times. How far ahead do you have to order these books? So like you said, 1 to 2 weeks. And then the final one that I have was this one from Shayna, who asks, will you have a pamphlet or card or QR code on the truck about every bookshop in Nova Scotia to share that info? And definitely. I have a friend who has a risograph printer. I think I mentioned this. And I want to like print out some pamphlets or something about it, but the website's not really done yet and stuff, and I'm just kind of trying to not tackle too much at once. But I do want to have that in there somehow.
Very cool.
All right, what about you? What comments did you pull?
Well, one was from our good old patron Kira on the Discord, and I wanted to share this because I talked about Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow recently, and Kira wrote why she loved the book, and so I thought I would share that because it's like, okay, I can see why this would make someone love it. Okay, so she said, I love Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I'm not a huge video game person, and for me a big part of why I loved it was for the same reasons I loved Daisy Jones and the Six. I feel like both books showcase a relationship between two people who work so incredibly well together creatively, but in the end, their unexplored feelings or tensions in their friendship and just various factors surrounding their personal relationship make that creative magic so hard to replicate and extend to the long term. And I just think that is such an interesting and complex and human way to explore creativity and partnership within an artistic field. And I really like that because I also didn't really love Daisy Jones and the Six. So I was like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from, but that's just not something that I like really resonated with when I was reading it. So I just thought I'd share that for anyone who might still be intrigued to read that book. It does, that is a really cool way of looking at it. And then I got a comment here from Imogen who says, this is so random. She just says, I also listened to the pod during labor. You guys are just so soothing. So we've got two. Nice. We've got 2 people so far. Which is so funny. I love that.
If you have a friend who's very heavily pregnant, send them the pod. I think they might appreciate it.
There's many hours it'll keep them busy. Maybe not entertained, but at least busy for a while. Here's a comment from Olivia that is directed at you and your biographies as well. So this is a good one to share. Olivia says, one option to dot a couple of I's could be to finish some biographies Ariel got halfway through in previous years. And that made me think, like, do you have biographies that you're partway through that you could be jumping into?
I don't think so. I know I started the Jane Austen one.
Oh, yeah.
And I might have gotten like 10% of the way through it, but I wasn't really like far enough that I would, otherwise I would love that idea.
Yeah.
I don't think that I have any.
Very interesting. Okay, well then that plan doesn't work.
It would have been good though, but yeah.
The final comment is from Mickey, who says, did you hear that the Royal Mint is coming out with an Anne Looney for 150 years of L.M. Montgomery? So for those who don't know, the Looney is a $1 coin that we have here in Canada. So that's pretty cool. Pretty big deal.
It is really cool. This is one of those things where dozens of people have sent it to
me.
I
bet, yeah.
Like, everyone's like, did you see this? Did you see that? And I'm like, oh my God, it looks amazing. It looks really, really cool. So I do have to figure out how to get one.
Yeah, that's important. Awesome. You're going to need to have that on your shelf. Not your shelf. Somewhere.
Maybe I would display it on my shelf. I bet you it comes in like a little bookie
box,
thing.
Or something.
Yeah, that's so cute. Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for another wild episode of Books Unbound. This was obviously a very truck forward episode. I do have an event next weekend and an event the weekend after that. But we won't be making the podcast about the truck. So this was a one-off situation, but I will be giving updates throughout because it is a lot of fun. Of course. All right. We will talk to you guys next week. We're going to go record our Patreon mini podcast where we give some bonus content to our dear patrons who make this podcast possible. So if you want to check that out, we're going to go record it. But we hope you had a good one. And bye.
Bye.